Have you ever noticed how time feels completely different depending on what you're doing? Like a moment of joy can feel like it's over in a flash, but 5 minutes waiting for something feels like forever. And then there's planning for the future, that huge task of mentally leaping through years, maybe decades. It's so nuanced for us. So imagine trying to teach that to artificial intelligence. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something called Sophimatics, AI's multi-level understanding of time. We're going to explore how AI systems might move beyond just, clock time to something much more layered, maybe even subjective. We're looking at some really interesting research here, mainly from Gerardo and Giovanni Alani, but also building on work by folks like Michon, Maniadakis and Trehanius, Madel, Bars, Franklin, and Eckerkar. So our mission today, to unpack this incredibly complex idea of time, and to show why getting this right is, well, pretty essential if we want AI to reach higher level thinking, act intelligently out there in the real world, and maybe even show qualities like morality or the ability to plan ahead effectively. Okay, let's get into it. Right, so the core idea seems to be that AI needs a really nuanced approach to time. It's not just one simple thing, is it? Because for us humans, our experience of time involves all these different forms operating on different levels, less like a metronome, more like a whole orchestra.
Exactly. And to really get a handle on the challenge AI faces,
Right.
you can look at a model from Michon back in '88. It lays out 5 distinct levels of temporality. The most basic, atemporality. Think of this as a state where time just
Yeah.
doesn't exist or
Yeah.
isn't perceived. Like computation's happening without any real sequence.
hmm
An AI stuck here,
Yeah.
it simply can't generate behavior with any kind of internal temporal structure.
Okay, no sense of time at all. What's next?
Next up is prototemporality. This is where you get a very basic before and after sense. It's needed for, tracking events in a simple order, but it's really limited. It's not you can't measure duration. It's not reversible.
Yeah.
Just this happened, then that
It's
happened.
just the sequence, no duration.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Then we move up to eotemporality. Now, this is the time we usually think of. Measurable, like Newtonian time, what a clock tells you.
Right.
And it's super useful for things like robotics path planning, predicting where something will be.
Yeah.
This metric time is vital for practical stuff. But here's the catch. It completely ignores any idea of subjective time, the feeling of time passing.
Ah, okay. So it's objective but not experiential.
Exactly. Which makes it pretty limited if you're aiming for truly cognitive AI. Then there's biotemporality. This is more about the real physiological present. It lets us self-organize, adapt our behavior based on what's happening right now.
Like an athlete reacting instantly.
That's a great example. Think quick, continuous responses to a changing environment. Without this, an AI would really struggle in situations needing constant adjustment. It wouldn't really be able to, live in the present.
Okay, that makes sense. And the last one?
The final level, the sort of pinnacle, is new temporality. This reflects the conscious experience of the now, that subjective feeling. And this level, crucially, is needed for complex things like understanding stories, making moral judgments, planning for the future. An AI without this, well, it just won't have that deep subjective grasp of the present moment. It can simulate planning, maybe, but not experience the now required for true foresight or reflection.
Wow, okay. 5 levels. That really highlights the complexity. So if our brains handle time in this distributed way using different areas, how does that work? What parts do what? And importantly, what does that tell us about what AI needs to replicate?
Good question. Research like that from Maniadakis and Trehanius points to specific regions. And yeah, there are clear parallels for AI. For instance, the cerebellum and the right posterior parietal cortex, they seem to be involved in judging duration. That gives us our subjective feeling of time passing. And it's linked to spatial awareness, motor planning.
So like for a robot navigating a room, knowing how long it takes to cross it.
Exactly. AI for robotics or navigation, they absolutely need that ability to judge these fine temporal spatial details, to move smoothly, adapt. Then you've got the right prefrontal cortex and these frontostriatal loops. These handle temporal order, constructing sequences of events.
Putting things in the right order.
Right, so for AI, you need some kind of executive module that can represent events, in the correct sequence. A leads to B leads to C. And finally, the hippocampus and the medial prefrontal cortex. These are fascinating. They let us differentiate past and future. They enable mental time travel.
Thinking back, planning ahead.
Precisely. So this is absolutely crucial for AI systems that need to reason using past experiences or deliberate about future actions or even explore what-if scenarios, counterfactuals, alternative futures.
So it's really spread out in the brain, not just one clock ticking away.
Not at all. This complexity really shows that time for us isn't just a series of separate moments. It's this integrated dynamic flow where the past shapes the present, which in turn shapes the future. And this means AI needs various forms of subjective temporality to really understand its situation properly. So AI architectures for time, they just can't be monolithic. Time has to be distributed, represented differently across the system.
Okay, a distributed approach makes sense given the brain analogy, but how do you actually build this kind of layered subjective time? What's a practical way forward for AI developers?
Well, one promising direction is this idea of cycle-based modeling of time.
Hmm.
This comes from work on architectures like LIDA, which tries to model aspects of human cognition. What they found, essentially, is that the system processes information in these rapid cycles, roughly 200 to 500 milliseconds each, quarter to half a second. And here's a really critical part. These cycles must overlap.
Overlap. Why is that important?
Right. So think about the process. Input comes in, it goes through sensory processing, gets represented, maybe bound with memories, gets temporal info attached, and then integrated back into the AI's internal model of the world. This stuff is constantly cycling, constantly being rewritten. That's how temporal representation emerges.
Yeah.
But the overlap, well, that's key for continuity.
Continuity.
Yeah. Think about, have you ever seen the wagon wheel illusion? Where a spinning wheel looks like it stops or goes backward in movies?
Oh, yeah, sure. The spokes look weird.
Exactly. That happens because the camera's frame rate, its cycles, isn't quite synced with the wheel's rotation. It's taking snapshots. If an AI's cognitive cycles didn't overlap, it might perceive the world like that, a series of disconnected snapshots, not a smooth flow.
Ah, I see. The overlap creates the smoother movie instead of still pictures.
Precisely. It allows the AI to bridge the gaps. And studies show this overlap is also crucial for things like anticipation, managing expectations. If the cycles didn't overlap, the AI would literally have no way to tell the difference between a continuous sequence and just a series of instants.
Right.
The overlap lets each cycle sort of feed into the next, building up a representation of flow. It allows individual cycles to serve as chunks, as sequences for higher-level thinking later on. Mathematically, you could even say if a cycle is x long, you have iterations, the perceived duration is somewhere between x plus y and xi because of this overlap and integration.
Okay, wow. So these overlapping cycles are really the mechanism, potentially, for AI to interpret sequences in a way that feels more, well, subjectively human. It's like giving the AI its own internal rhythm of experience.
That's a great way to think about it. Yes, these overlapping cycles allow the AI to first see events as maybe cause and effect, and then, as more cycles process the information, grasp it as a whole sequence. It means time genuinely moves forward with the AI system integrated into its processing.
Right.
And that's just fundamentally crucial if we want AI to integrate usefully into social situations. It needs that subjective viewpoint, not just raw data processing.
This really makes it sound like time isn't just a passive background setting for AI, like a clock on the wall. It sounds more active, like something that actively shapes the AI's internal world, its understanding.
Yes, absolutely. That's a key insight here. When you embody time within the AI's architecture like this, it becomes an active participant in how the AI develops its internal representations, its strategies. Sophimatics talks about time as part of semantic metabolism.
Semantic metabolism, what's that?
Think of it like, well, how our bodies metabolize food to grow and function. This AI metabolizes meaning. It's constantly digesting, processing, reinterpreting information and experiences over time. This fosters growth, development. It allows for this constant reinterpretation, creating a dynamic internal economy of information that facilitates plasticity. The AI can spontaneously reorganize itself, adapt to time and through time.
So it learns and changes based on its temporal experience.
Exactly. It actually connects nicely with Edelman's ideas about neural Darwinism, the idea that internal connections strengthen or weaken based on experience, like evolution happening inside the brain.
Yeah.
Embodying time like this is essential for that kind of continuous adaptation, that connectionist reinterpretation of everything the AI encounters. So we're rejecting the idea of a single time module. Instead, it's this distributed network. And this allows different kinds of time, the different levels we talked about, to emerge depending on the situation, the context. You combine this distributed, embodied approach with the cycle-based modeling and add in subjective aspects like intentions, plans, and you have a framework that could potentially model all those forms of time we discussed earlier.
That's really quite profound.
It is. And what's fascinating is that to get AI to handle time properly, we really have to move beyond just thinking past, present, future. Time needs to sort of soak through all levels of the AI's processing. It has to become an active factor in how the AI makes decisions, sets goals, evaluates things. Basically, time itself needs to become something the AI can experience subjectively.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really shows that Sophimatics views time as, well, a lot of things. Multi-level, emergent, embodied, intentional, recursive, distributed. It's about transforming AI from something that just generates outputs to something potentially truly reflective, truly cognitive. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener. If AI can learn to experience time in this more human-like subjective way, what might that unlock? What new kinds of creativity or understanding or maybe even consciousness could emerge that we can barely imagine today? And maybe just as interesting, what might learning to teach AI about time teach us about our own mysterious relationship with it? Something to think about.